What's up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to episode 116 of the Spun Today Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening. This is the final episode of the year. The last time you will hear recording from yours truly in the year 2018. Unless you're hearing this sometime in the future, then you're kind of like audio time traveling or something. I decided to record this bonus episode of the Spun Today Podcast, this final random rant episode, because I kind of sort of feel bad about re-releasing a couple of older episodes within the past like 2 months or so, which I kind of sort of feel bad, but I kind of sort of don't, because I want to re-release episodes. But I should re-release them as like bonus episodes, I think. Maybe that's the approach I'll take in 2019. Gotta think that one out. But, sometimes, as in these two occasions, it's, out of my control, couldn't help it, and didn't just want to leave you guys hanging, wanted to put something out there. And the benefit is that if you haven't heard an episode that was recorded, 3 or 4 years ago, this was your chance to. Although every episode from episode 1 of the Spun Today Podcast is and always will be available and free to you fine folks. It's, not everybody that goes back and listens to the back catalog of a particular podcast. And what I re-release is often a episode that I can say stands the test of time. It's not like a random rant episode where I speak more about like current events and like movies and books and TV shows and politics and stuff that's kind of sort of happening now, at least in my life. It's more like audiobooks of short stories that I've written that I re-release for your listening pleasure. Anywho, in this episode I'm going to speak about UFC Fight Night. Kevin Lee, the Motown Phenom, versus Iaquinta, which I just saw last night, by the way. I'm recording this on December 16th, and that fight took place on December 15th. I'm also going to speak about watching the show Mr. Robot, Season 3 specifically of Mr. Robot, and beginning to watch the show The Office. For those of you that are new to the podcast, there's a couple ways you can help support. Rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcasting platform. Another way you can help support the podcast is by shopping on Amazon. But instead of going to Amazon.com, go to spuntoday.com and click on the affiliate links tab on my website. There you'll see an Amazon banner. Click that and it'll take you to Amazon.com. There you'll do your shopping like you normally do, and it will not cost you anything extra, but it will help support the podcast just for driving traffic to their website. Alright, so UFC Fight Night. I didn't get to see all the fights. I saw pieces of the fight before the main event, and which looked really good. Not familiar with who the fighters were, but they both looked scrappy. It looked like a brawl, probably worth going back and watching. This was the final fight card on Fox. 2018 closes out the contract that the UFC had with Fox, and 2019 brings on the new contract under ESPN, which makes it, I think, a bit more mainstream, I would think. At least on like the sports. That's like the sports network, right? UFC. And it's kind of weird. The ESPN is owned by Disney, and you can have UFC technically not owned by Disney, but its distribution, at least for the free fights, owned by Disney. It's kind of an odd juxtaposition, but interesting nonetheless. And the main event that I was looking forward to, and was a hell of a fight, was between Kevin Lee, the Motown Phenom from Detroit, Michigan, and Iaquinta, the New York's own Long Island boy, Iaquinta. and Kevin Lee was ranked third or fourth. I want to say fourth in the lightweight division, and Iaquinta was ranked eighth. I thought, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the fight, by the way, that Kevin Lee was going to win. I thought it would be like a pretty scrappy fight, but I thought Kevin Lee had the tools. He was more well-rounded. I just thought that he would definitely get the W. And Iaquinta, who I believe his last fight was with Khabib Nurmagomedov, and he took the fight with very little notice. I think 1 week's notice, and he arguably has given Khabib the more competition than other fighters that he has fought in a 1 week's notice. So it's really impressive. So having a full camp and fighting Kevin Lee was kind of like, all right, now let's see what he's going to do against Kevin Lee. Like, if he had that much success against arguably the best lightweight, one of the best lightweights ever in the UFC, he should have a very strong showing. I still thought, though, that Kevin Lee would be able to win the fight. I don't know. Just like Kevin Lee's like style fighting is more, I think, dynamic, more, has a stronger wrestling base, a more dynamic striker. He's like funner to watch, which doesn't really translate in wins, I guess, but I give him like the creativity points and spinning elbows and shit like that. You're more likely to see from him than Iaquinta, I thought, and that kind of wasn't the case. I mean, it was the case for the first 3 rounds of the fight, but Iaquinta landed, I think, in the very first round, like Kevin Lee threw a punch, he sidestepped it and gave him like a spinning elbow that landed like flush, and Kevin Lee ate it. And then Kevin Lee ate several punches and kicks. Kick to the head from Iaquinta that landed flush. Kevin Lee ate it. He ran through it. And he was walking Iaquinta down throughout the majority of the fight. I would say the first 3 rounds, 100% Kevin Lee's. Kevin Lee took the first 3 rounds. Then momentum started going in the direction of Iaquinta. Iaquinta definitely had the 4th and 5th rounds, in my opinion. And in the 5th round, if there were, I would say, an extra minute, maybe minute and a half to the round, I think Iaquinta would have knocked out Kevin Lee. But I still, even if the 5th round is like a 10-8 round, and the 4th round was Iaquinta's, but I don't think it was like a 10-8. Like, it wasn't like a completely one-sided round. Kevin Lee, I thought, handily took the first 3 rounds. So I thought maybe a split decision, but should be unanimous decision in the favor of Kevin Lee. And it wound up being a unanimous decision in the favor of Iaquinta, which was weird. I don't know. I guess when you leave it up to the judges, like Dana White always says, and a lot of pundits always say, don't leave it up to the judges because you can get an outcome like this. Not that anybody goes in there. I'm sure any fighter goes in there wanting to leave it up to the judges. Like, they all want to finish in convincing fashion. Anyway, regardless, it was just surprising. But I guess in the judges' eyes, the fact that, like the last round was a 10-8 round, more than likely. I don't know what the judges' numbers were, but in my opinion, my non-professional, never judged the fight in his life opinion, but just as a fan, seemed like a 10-8 round, meaning that it was completely one-sided for Iaquinta. And the fact that Kevin Lee was like stumbling towards the end, and if there was a little more time, he would have gotten knocked out, more likely than not. Maybe all that played in the favor of giving Iaquinta the win. But even if it went in that direction, I think it probably should have been a split decision, I would think. You know what I mean? But it was a unanimous decision, and it is what it is. Good on Iaquinta. I think he called out Conor at the end too. And he referenced his fight with Khabib and said that Conor tapped, and if the path to a rematch with Khabib would have to go through him, or should go through him rather, because he's the one that gave Khabib the better fight, and of course everybody knows that a fight with Conor would mean a ton of dough, and it actually is not a bad setup. I mean, throwing Conor back in there with Khabib is kind of like you're gonna dilute Conor like too much, like his mystique, his name. He's just gonna get like waxed again. So you kind of sort of like want to build him up a little bit more, and like give him someone like an Iaquinta to fight, and like Conor needs a win. He can't just off of like the shit talking and like stuff of that alone like sell every fight for the rest of his life. Like if he keeps losing, like he needs to mix in a few wins in there. And he always comes back from his losses and wins. He did that with Nate Diaz. Got choked out, lost, came back and beat Nate Diaz. And he wants to do the same with Khabib now that he lost. But he took that like what was it, a 2-year hiatus, and when he fought against Mayweather in boxing, and then he lost that, and so it's kind of like a loss behind a loss back in the UFC. His first fight back in the UFC. So a nice tune-up fight, if you will, before going back against Khabib might make sense. And Iaquinta would be a worthy opponent, especially with what he just did to Kevin Lee. That would be interesting. But I would definitely like to see Tony Ferguson in there. I would say put Tony Ferguson and versus Khabib for the title. That's rightfully Tony's. Still stand by that. And then on the same card, put Iaquinta and Conor, like co-main eventing it, and then the winner of each face each other. If Conor wins, he'll face the winner of Tony and Khabib, and if Iaquinta wins, he faces the winner of Tony versus Khabib. I think that's a great setup, and you got 1, 2, 3 great fights slated in the lightweight division at the top, regardless of the outcomes of each. That would be very sellable and interesting to watch, and I would love to see that as a fan. I've spoken about Mr. Robot in the past. I recently finished watching season 3. I know the show is on season 4 or season 5, but I watched it on Amazon Prime, which gets like the seasons like an episode late, a season later. So they might be showing season 5 already, and season 4 is out there. But on Amazon Prime, only season 3 is available, 1, 2, and 3. So you can stream it for free on Amazon Prime if you're interested. And plus, I waited a minute before like watching it. The last time I watched it, season 2, I finished season 2, and I was watching season 2 while I was getting engaged in Dominican Republic. I was watching it around that time, so December of 2014. And I just got back to it this year and watched season 3, and it was really, really good. I recommend it. It's set in a not too distant future where they draw parallels to what's actually going on in current time. Like Donald Trump is president, or about to be, at least in season 3. And they're like flirting with that idea, and it's about like a big, huge company called E Corp being like one of the biggest companies in the world. Think like a Google or an Apple or something like that. You have a group like Anonymous, like a hacker group like Anonymous called F Society, and you have other groups like them, and it's like heavy on like hacking and these kind of like clandestine digital operations and plans to overthrow big corporations and corporate greed and stuff like that. And you get to know characters from both sides, whether it's on like the hacking side or like the corporate ladder side of things. You have great actors in it. Bobby Cannavale was in season 3, which he had a really cool character. He is, look him up. He's been on Boardwalk Empire. He played Chip Rossetti, and he's been in other things also. But he played a pretty dope role in Mr. Robot. The main character, Ramli Malik, is the guy that recently did that Queen movie. Bohemian Rhapsody is the Queen biopic. He played Freddie Mercury. So he's a dope actor as well. There is an underground like hacking group called the Dark Army, and they're kind of like the shadow government of the world type of thing in this show, in this world created by Sam Esmail. And the head of it is played by B.D. Wong, which was, if you guys remember the show Oz on HBO, he was the Asian guy that played the priest in Oz. So it's interesting to see him. He's a dope actor also. I liked him in Oz. And I hadn't seen him in, I don't think, anything since. I'm sure he's been in stuff, but I just haven't seen him. And he actually plays this, like, I don't know what the proper terminology would be. It's not a trans man or woman. He's a man, and I guess he'd be like just like a cross dresser, but he's like a cross dresser with like a split personality type of thing. And he is the head of the Black Army. I'm sorry, the Dark Army. He dresses as a woman, and the woman is supposedly his sister, I think he says it is. And you see him going back and forth between, you know, being in a very corporate setting in a suit, dressed like a man, and doing things, and then running things on the Dark Army side, both as himself, but then, you know, in a different scene he'll be dressed as a woman, like he has a wig on and a dress, and full-fledged woman, changes his voice, and it's kind of like a split personality type of thing. It's interesting. Weird, but interesting. And that's his character. And there's a really cool scene where he is speaking to his, like, number one, like, right-hand man type of guy. He's in, like, this, like, rooftop elaborate, you know, penthouse mansion type of place. And he tells him to let the guy in, and the guy that he lets in is, like, some PR guy, like a public relations person in the United States that deals with very high-end clients. And he tells him, and by he I mean B.D. Wong, the head of the Dark Army, he tells him that he wants him to back a certain politician for president. He wants him to put a positive spin on him and get him elected, basically. That's how much, like, influence this, like, Dark Army has. And the PR guy is like, who? Yeah, sure. You know, we've gotten presidents elected before. Who do you want elected? And he looks at the TV, and Donald Trump is on TV. And this is before he got elected for real. And he is, you know, on the political campaign, basically, campaign trail. And the guy looks at him, the PR guy, and he's like, I know the country is desperate, but you can't be serious. He's a complete buffoon. And, you know, he's saying that the country is desperate. I'm, like, kind of jumping all over the place here. But he says the company is desperate because there was just, like, this huge hack on this company, E Corp, and it caused, like, an economic crisis because they were, like, such a huge company. It's like the bank's failing or something like that, you know. And he was like, I know the country is desperate, but this guy's a buffoon. You know, they're not going to elect him. And then the leader of the Dark Army tells him, he turns to him and he says this like dope line of, if you pull the right strings, a puppet will dance any way you want. I just thought that was cool. It was kind of like kind of foreshadowing what many people, like, say or think, that Donald Trump is really like a puppet for, like, the Russians, if you're into, like, conspiracy theories, but more so of a puppet for corporate interests and stuff like that, and monetary gain and shit. That was just like an interesting way to weave in reality with the story, which is pretty cool. Which is something that I try to do and play with in my first novel, which is I spoke about a bit more thoroughly, at least from like a technical standpoint, like a writing standpoint. But from just to share with you guys a bit here on the Random Rant episode, it's a story about like time travel and certain people having the ability to do so and going back and righting wrongs and stuff like that. But I try to weave in like real things that have happened historically and just attribute it to things that a certain team did in the novel. A certain team of like time travelers, if you will, did in the novel. Stay tuned to the novel, working title Fractal, coming soon, tentatively in Q1 2019. But that was a pretty dope scene. What else? In season 3, you have a bunch more flashback scenes that reveal like different angles and perspectives, like sprinkled throughout the entire season that you didn't see before. And it's like flashbacks that revisit scenes that you've seen either in season 2 or earlier in season 3 or maybe even season 1, and you see like something that you know that happened, but you see it from somebody else's perspective, which is pretty cool. It gives you like more of a holistic kind of like view of what's going on. What else? There was a 6 scene. This guy, Tyrell Wellick, which is one of like the corporate guys involved, and he winds up like going to the other side and being like on the hacking side and wanting to bring down that company that he worked for, that he was like climbing the corporate ladder of. He has a wife and kid, and they have like this weird sexually dysfunctional type of relationship where, you know, like they use sex to like get ahead, even if it's like him sleeping with another woman and like the wife knows about it, or the wife is sleeping with another man, and to like set up these guys and, you know, like corporate office politics type bullshit and stuff like that. Pretty much they're like estranged from each other. They're like separated, but not really. And then the wife has like this bartender boyfriend guy that she's like using to like pin a murder on him that would otherwise be pinned on her husband that she's quote unquote estranged from. And like that relationship goes bad. They split up or whatever. And the wife has like this driver guy that's like her bodyguard as well. And he notices their car being tailed. Like the wife is in the backseat with the infant baby. And then he winds up pulling over because he notices that they're being tailed by a car. And in the car winds up being this like bartender boyfriend guy. And the bodyguard is telling him that it's over, that he has to step away, that he never mattered to her. He was just being played, blah, blah, blah. And he gets in the, you know, he fucks him up. He like beats him up, gets in the car, and the wife is like, "Did you take care of it?" And he said, "Yeah." And then you just see a shot being fired. And this guy who's like the driver, bodyguard guy gets killed instantly. He gets shot. Actually, no, he doesn't get killed instantly. He gets shot like in the chest and arm or something. And like blood splatters like all over, and the lady's screaming, and just blood on her face. And then like the little infant baby is like there, like in the car seat. And then it pans out to outside, and the boyfriend, the bartender guy, he's like stumbling towards the car. He looks at her and like shoots her in the head and kills her. And her blood splatters all over the baby. And he doesn't kill the baby or anything like that. But it's just such a like surprisingly traumatic scene that you didn't see coming, because she was a big part of the show. Even the driver guy was a big part of the show, because he was like did a lot of the dirty work for the couple, and it was nuts. And then, long story short, the kid goes into like not witness protection, to like a foster home and stuff like that. And then the FBI winds up using the dead wife and the baby being in a foster home against Tyrell Wellick, which is the guy that used to work for E Corp and then joined the hacker side to try to get information from him about like the hacker side and stuff like that. It's fucking nuts. But that was a pretty sick scene. And it was a dope season, man. Definitely check it out. It's called Mr. Robot. Again, season 3 is available on Amazon. I believe season 4 or maybe even season 5 is available like on where they give the show, which I believe is USA. Next up is The Office. Now, I started watching The Office. I am about to go change my son's diaper and then come back to tell you about The Office. Right, buddy? You want a diaper change? Say something on the podcast so they can hear you in 2018. Say something. Don't drool on it. Don't drool on the mic. Alrighty, and we're back. And luckily it was a code yellow, not a code brown in the diaper department. Alright, so I started watching The Office. I had never watched The Office before. Maybe had seen it like flipping through episodes, but it was flipping through channels or something once upon a time, but it was never something that I saw. I always knew it was a popular show, but I didn't know like the difference between like the British version and the American version, and Steve Carell and Ricky Gervais, and I don't know. It was just like a whole world that I chose to like opt out of. And speaking to some coworkers, they were telling me that I had to watch it. I had to check it out, just to watch like the first couple episodes in the first season. And that I would appreciate it just being that I work at an office. They were like, you'll always draw parallels between like the characters in the show and like people that we work with and stuff like that. So just on that strength, I figured I'd give it a whirl. And they're half-hour episodes, so it's like 20-something minutes each episode. And they're all on Netflix. You can stream them. And what I do is I save those for like the train ride home from work, which is like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, an hour and a half, depending. I like watch like an episode or an episode and a half on the way home. And I've seen the first 2 seasons completely. And like the first season I think was only like 8 episodes or something like that. Second season is a lot. It has like 15, 16 episodes or 18 or something like that. And like a handful of episodes into the 3rd season, and it's true. It's really funny, really well done. It's like the second show I think that used like that like what's it called, like single camera type of approach to sitcom, and like speaking to the camera, like breaking the fourth wall. I believe The Office, the British version, was the first, and then this and set the precedent. And this show, the American version of The Office, was the second. And then you have current shows like Modern Family and stuff like that follow the same format now. But they broke the mold of the 3-camera sitcom, which is pretty cool. And it's really funny. You have a lot of known actors which blew up from that series, like Steve Carell, obviously, and you have Ed Helms, who's in it. Patrice O'Neal was in it. Craig Robinson also. You hear my little guy in the background? He's jumping up and down in his little like bouncy thing, baby Einstein like bouncy chair thing. Just got home a bit ago with mommy. But yeah, it's an entertaining watch. One of my coworkers said that it's like the type of show that he loved, and now it's like a show that if it's on, like it's something that he like play in the background while he's doing something else, type of thing. Similar to like for me, like Seinfeld is like that. Like I could always like leave Seinfeld on, like on the TV if it's on, like any rerun or whatever, and while I'm doing something else, and I still appreciate it. And the show is really good, man. I'm glad I decided to, or they talked me into giving it a shot. And like I see it now, like on TV, like reruns now on TV. It's like season 8 rerun, and I'm like, holy shit. And then like I'll switch it on just to get like for 5 minutes to like kind of see, because I'm not really worried about like spoilers or anything like that. It's like half-hour comedies. It's not like that type of like drama that you're like deep into and you're worried about spoilers. But it's interesting to see like the iterations like in the future that await me, if you will, or the seasons in the future rather, the way they like unraveled. Say something. There you go. Say something else. 5 months old, the youngest podcaster ever. Say that. Do you like the Spun Today Podcast? I'll take that as a yes. That means you love it, right? Maybe he's not a fan. Is it feeding time? Or do you want to do more podcasting? I'm guessing feeding time. Okay, buddy. But yeah, it's a funny series, and I will probably revisit it sometime in the future in terms of speaking to you guys about it once I'm deeper into the show. Right now, I just passed the part where Jim actually told Pam that he loves her, which I didn't expect at the end of season 2. And then once he got shut down, she wound up like leaving, and he wound up leaving and going to the other office branch. But I thought it was gonna be like a Seinfeld and Elaine, like a Jerry and Elaine type of relationship where the romantic drama gets like the suspense for it builds up and keeps continually getting like drummed up, but never really happens. And they took the opposite approach in the office, and Jim kind of put his words hard on his sleeve and went for it at the end of the second season. That was interesting. And then he moved away, and then the other office wound up getting shut down, so he had to move back. And that's pretty much where I'm at with the show right now. So now it's the introduction of like that new cast of characters, and yeah, it's pretty much where I'm at with it. But yeah, it's definitely a funny show. There's definitely parallels that that I've drawn from my coworkers, and I'm sure it's like they wrote it in a way that traits of certain characters are general enough that you can apply them to different people that you work with or that that you're around, especially being that it's in an office setting. It's probably more applicable to people that work in like a corporate or whatever type of environment, office type of environment. What else? Something else that's interesting. Forgot to mention that the head of the show is that recreational marijuana might be made illegal in the state of New York, which I always figured New York would follow suit probably sooner than later, just because of the tax revenue that's tied to it. And it's like an estimated in the first year like $3 billion worth of revenue that can go to repairing things like the MTA and public housing and schools. Like, for example, in Colorado, they made a universal pre-K completely free and paid for. And they've had so much excess revenue from marijuana sales, the taxing of marijuana, that they wound up having to give a refund check to the residents of Colorado, which is pretty cool. And negative consequences to it, like that people were purporting before it becoming legal, like violent crimes going up, is not the case because they've gone down. DUI related accidents going up have gone down as well. Underage children using marijuana have also gone down. Revenues from the state funding have also gone to funding rehab centers and stuff like that for people that want to rehab, like other, not just like marijuana, but like other drugs and stuff like that, and get off of them. They've gone for funding, has gone towards that. So it's like a no-brainer in terms of tax revenue for a state to do. And then when you factor in the medicinal qualities of it and all the anecdotal evidence from intraocular eye pressure relief for people with cataracts, appetite suppression being reversed for people like cancer patients that are on chemo that have no appetite but very, very direly need the nutrients from food but can't keep anything down because they're not hungry enough and don't want to eat. And marijuana helps with that, with increasing the appetite for it. One of the most notable for me is the seizure relief, especially in children, that CBD for marijuana, it drastically helps alleviate in kids and adults as well, but it's safe enough for children. What people have seen, they're small kids having hundreds of seizures a day to having a handful of seizures a month from putting droplets of CBD oil under their tongues. And then for me, the kicker is like the LD50 rate of marijuana, which is the lethal dose at 50%, meaning that 50% of the people that take this dose would be lethal for them. And it's like a metric that all drugs and food have an LD50 rate. Like, for example, the LD50 rate of salt, for example, is like 3,000 milligrams. So if you eat 3,000 milligrams worth of salt, which is a shitload, but like, for example, there's like 6 grams in a teaspoon. But if you have a certain amount of salt, you die, right? So everything has a LD50 rate. The LD50 of marijuana is consuming 1,500 pounds of it within 15 minutes, which is humanly impossible, which means it's literally humanly impossible for someone to die off of overdosing on marijuana. So that's like the kicker to me. There's like so much positive affiliated with it, and without even getting into like the agricultural aspect of like hemp, that's like a whole discussion in and of itself. But so much medicinal positives to it, and far outweigh any of the negatives. It's just been like stigmatized for so long that I think it's ultimately going to be a positive thing for New York, and it's definitely a testament to local politics, because Governor Cuomo, which stated that he's going to have a recreational marijuana proponent in his budget for Q1 of 2019, and he's putting it forward because he's going to have a Democratic controlled Senate, which should pass it, and before he didn't. But he was against recreational marijuana, and I think even against actually not against medical, because medical is legal, but he was against the recreational marijuana until the race that he had with Cynthia Nixon, which she was a staunch proponent of recreational marijuana. And what local politics does in that sense, or any politics really, but you see more at the local level, I think, more clearly, is that a campaign like that, a primary campaign like that, helps shift. Even if someone like Cynthia Nixon, people say, she didn't have a shot in hell, it helps gauge public sentiment and public opinion about certain things. And then the candidate, the incumbent in this case, Governor Cuomo, sees that impact and that influence that her campaign had, and it helps shift his politics and his policies one way or the other. And she was such a staunch proponent, and it was like one of the most popular things on our platform was recreational marijuana, and that obviously had a direct impact on him, reversing his opinion on it, and now stating that in Q1 2019 it's going to be part of the budget proposal for New York State, with an estimate of, again, $3 billion would it be dollars coming back to the state from its revenue, which is pretty cool. And with that, folks, with this being the final episode of 2018, I'm not going to make a big end of the year hoopla about it, but it has been a pretty dope year. Definitely for me personally, in the sense of having my wife giving birth to my firstborn son, who's now 5 months old. Pride and joy over there, going and learning how to spit and stuff like that. And that's been fun, awesome, life-changing experience in and of itself. And getting our first place together this year as well, and still having my family close, which is really important. Continuing to progress in this endeavor, this writing and podcasting endeavor that I embarked on about 4 years ago. And since putting out a nonfiction book and about to put out my first novel in Q1 2019, look out for it. Fractal is the working title. All in all, it's been a pretty good year, and I expect to take that momentum into 2019 and wish the same for you guys, and hope that we all keep it pushing. Thank you very much for listening to the Spun Today Podcast in 2018, and here's looking forward to a continued and prosperous 2019. And I definitely can't wait until the baby could actually articulate some words so I can make him say the Spun Today Podcast and use his voice as part of my intro in the future. Definitely looking forward to that. Alright, folks. This is episode 116 of the Spun Today Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening.
What's free? Free is when nobody else can tell us what to be. Free is when the TV ain't controlling what we see. Told my niggas I need you. Through all the fame, I stay true. Pray my niggas stay free. Made a few mistakes, but this ain't where I wanna be. Before I'm judged by 12, put a 12 on my feet. Told my niggas I need you. Stay up, I know these times ain't true. Real life, what's
Since
free?
the lad I was cunning, just got a pad out in London. I keep stacking my money, I need a ladder by summer. 8K shots, niggas ducking straight shots. Been a top dog, that's before the K dots. Cracking in 06, immaculate showmanship. Talking like you Mitch, disastrous on the strip. Holding on your bitch, coulda never sold you a brick. With them people, you never been on the list. Mona Lisa to me ain't nothing but a bitch. Hanging pictures like niggas swinging from his dick. We so different, you thought these didn't exist. The megalodon never seen on his wrist. I'm from the south where they never make it this rich. God is the greatest, but Satan been on his shit. Walking the pavement, I pray I'm illuminated. Over a decade and never nobody's favorite. Pot and kilo go hand in hand like we gamble and huff. My amigo, 1,000,000 grams when we count them and up. You was dead broke, I let you hold it back. You paid for it, but I fuck around and stole the track. Screaming gang, gang, now you wanna rap. Racketeering charges, caught them on the tap. Looking for a bond, lawyers want a tax. Purple hair, got them faggots on your back.
What's free? Free is when nobody else can tell us what to be. Free is when the TV ain't controlling what we see. Told my niggas I need you. Through all the fame, I stay true. Pray my niggas stay free. Made a few mistakes, but this ain't where I wanna be. Before I'm judged by 12, put a 12 on my feet. Told my niggas I need you. Stay up, I know these times ain't true. Real life, what's free? Fed investigations, heard they plotting like I trapped. 20 million cash, they know I got that off a rap. Maybe it's the Michael Rubens or the Robert Krafts, or the billionaire from Marcy in the way they got my back. Seeing how I prevailed and now they try to knock me back. Lock me in a cell for all them nights and I won't snap. 250 a show and they still think I'm selling crack. When you bring my name up to the judge, just tell them facts. Tell them how we funding all these kids to go to college. Tell them how we ceasing all these wars, stopping violence. Trying to fix the system in the way that they designed it. I think they want me silenced. Oh, say you can see, I don't feel like I'm free. Locked down in my cell, shackled from ankle to feet. Judge banging that gavel, turned me to slave from a king. Another day in the Bing, I gotta hang from a string. Just for popping a willy, my people march to the city. From a cell to a chopper, view from the top of the city. You can tell how we rockin' soon as I pop it. We litty poppin' like Bad Boy in 94. Big Poppin' and Diddy and niggas counting me out. Like my account ain't busy, that's 5,000,020. Sit up and count till I'm dizzy. Phantom 500,000, 100 round and stizzy. Is we beefing a rap with Drizzy like what's free? Free is when nobody else can tell us what to be. Free is when the TV ain't controlling what we see. Told my niggas I need you. Through all the fame, you know I stay true. Pray my niggas stay free. Made a few mistakes, but this ain't where I wanna be. Before I'm judged by 12, put a 12 on my feet. Told my niggas I need you. Stay up, I know these times ain't true. Real life was free.
In the land of the free where the blacks enslaved. 3/5 of a man, I believe's the phrase. I'm 50% of Duce and it's debt free, yeah. 100% of Ace of Spade, worth half a beat. Rock Nation, half of that, that's my piece. 100% of title to bust it up with my G's. Most my niggas won't ever work together. You run a checker, but they never give you leverage. No red hat, don't Michael and Prince me and yay. They separate you when you got Michael and Prince's DNA. I ain't one of these house niggas you bought. My house like a resort. My house bigger than yours, my spot. Come on, man. My route better, of course. We started without food in our mouth. They gave us pork and pig intestines. Shit you discarded that we ingested. We made the project a wave. You came back, reinvested and gentrified it. Took niggas sense of pride, now how that's free? When them people stole the soul and hit niggas with 360s. I ain't got a billion streams, got $1 billion. Inflating numbers like we po be happy about this. We was praising Billboard, but we were young. Now I look at Billboard like, is you dumb? To this day, grandma afraid what I might say. They gonna have to kill me, grandmama, I'm not their slave. Check out the bazaar, rapping style used by me. The HOV, look at my hair free, carefree. Niggas ain't near free, enjoy your change. What's your employer name with the hairpiece? I survive the hood, can't no shaitan rob me. My account's so good, I'm practically living tax-free. Factory, that's me. Sold drugs, got away, scot-free. That's a CCE, copy, kill-free. Still me, and expect me to not feel away. To this day, you would say, y'all kill me. Sucker free, no shucking me. I don't jive turkey. Say happy Thanksgiving, shit sound like a murder to me. Smoke free, all of y'all calling out toll free. Label rob you for millions, yet you wanna put a hole in me. Sugar free, season but I'm salt free. You lay a hand on hold my shooter, shoot for free. I promise World War III. Send an order through a hands free. Kill you in 24 hours or shorter, you can't ignore the hand speed. On guard, it's off the head, this improv, but it's no comedy. Sign I fail? Hell nah.
Would you like to receive a short email from me once a week? You know that feeling you have on a Monday at work when you have absolutely nothing to look forward to except for lunch? Have no fear, the Midday Monday Boost letter is here. In this short weekly newsletter, you will receive 5 things. 1 is a photograph of the week from a photographer. A podcast of the week. I listen to tons of podcasts, dozens and dozens of podcasts, hundreds of episodes, and I cherry pick the best ones and I share them with you here. You'll also receive a video of the week, which could be anything from a rap battle to a TED Talk. You receive a quote of the week, something to let marinate in your mind, and a word of the week so that you and I can both step up our vocab. So if any of that sounds of interest to you, check it out. Check out the subscribe page at spuntoday.com/subscribe. Drop in your email address and you'll receive the very next one. For any writers or creatives out there, I have a questionnaire. It's a 5-question questionnaire that anyone is free to fill out. It's located at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And what it is 5 open-ended questions related to your craft. It's things like what inspires you to write or create whenever you don't feel the inspiration to do so. What are your favorite apps or tools or tricks to trick yourself into getting into the mind state of actually creating? What inspires you, etc., stuff like that. And what I do with your responses is share them on a future episode of the podcast. Now you can choose to remain anonymous if you choose to. You have that option right there when you fill out the questionnaire. And if you do not choose to remain anonymous, I give you a shout out on the podcast and promote for free whatever it is that you have going on. So I appreciate you in advance for sharing that with me, as well as the rest of the listeners of the Spun Today Podcast, which would stand to gain from you filling out the questionnaire. Now, you can help support the podcast in a myriad of ways. One way, which does not cost you anything and is most popular within the podcasting community, is by shopping on Amazon using my affiliate links banner. So the way that works is you go to spuntoday.com /affiliate links, or just click on the affiliate links tab at the top center of the page. And there you will see a banner for Amazon. You literally just click on that and it takes you to Amazon's website where you do your shopping like you normally do. It does not cost you anything extra, but Amazon will give me a kickback just for driving traffic to their website. So that would be a big help. It literally costs you nothing extra financially, just costs you a couple of extra clicks of your mouse before you do your Amazon shopping. The iTunes banner that's on that same page works the same way. So if you're purchasing music or movies or whatever it is on iTunes, feel free to go through my affiliate link portal there as well. If you want to make a one-time PayPal donation, feel free to do so. There's a PayPal donation button on there as well. Within that same tab, you'll also find a link to the Spun Today Viral Style store. Now, the Viral Style store is a store where you can get Spun Today merch, whether it's a coffee mug or a t-shirt that I personally designed. And spoiler alert, I'm no Ralph Lauren or, whoever designs Gucci stuff. But I did create the design of those shirts myself. I have a couple t-shirts on there. One that says, for example, Right Need Every Day, which is a play off of Snoop, Dre, and Nate Dogg's Smoke Weed Every Day. So it's Right Need Every Day with like a puff cloud of smoke behind it. I have a Podcast versus Everybody t-shirt and just stuff like that. So check it out. The link to the Viral Style store is also there. You can also help support the podcast on a reoccurring basis if you become a Patreon supporter. Now, Patreon is pretty cool, and there's a little video explanation of what it is and how it works, but I'll try to do my best to summarize it here. Basically, you sign on to Patreon, which is a free service, free account, and you can support not just myself, but any other podcasters or creatives that also have Patreon pages. And you can choose to, for example, donate $1 to them on a per episode basis. So the Spun Today podcast has 2 episodes a month. So if you donate $1 to it, it'll be $2 a month, basically. And you set it up, and it just happens automatically on a reoccurring basis. There are 0 fees. You can cancel at any time. No hassle, no bullshit. And it's a cool way to help support, and is much appreciated. And also, it's not just like for example, a PayPal donation, which is just that, but through Patreon, it allows the creator, in this case being myself, to set up a reward system, if you will. So if you donate $1 per episode, you are considered a tier 1 supporter. If you donate $3 per episode, you are a second tier supporter, etc., etc. And it goes up to 4 tiers, and each tier gets different things. Like tier 1 gets a free Spun Today bookmark and a shout out on the podcast. Tier 3 gets those 2 things from tier 1, as well as a free writing piece that's not posted on my website or available to anyone else, etc., etc. So check that out if you will. And visit my Patreon page at Patreon, patreon.com/Spun Today. Another great, amazing way to help support the podcast is to rate and review it. This costs you absolutely nothing. Whether you listen on iTunes, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, on Pocket Casts, on Overcast, on Player FM, on Google Play, on YouTube, on Tumblr, or if you listen on Podbay or any other of your favorite podcast apps. Please rate and review the episode. It really is the #1 way to help the show gain traction, gain exposure. You could also share it with friends and family and tell them, check out what this idiot is saying. Some of it is actually pretty good. Or it all fucking sucks and you should listen and laugh. But as long as you're listening, it would be much appreciated. So rate and review the podcast wherever it is that you listen. Follow me on Twitter or on Instagram at Spun Today. Like the Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Spun Today. Subscribe to my YouTube page as well. All podcast episodes are available on YouTube, as well as clipped versions. For example, with the Random Rant episodes, I speak about a bunch of different topics instead of having the full episode alone, which is also available on YouTube. But you also have snippets of the different topics broken up into more digestible chunks. So check that out. You can also support by checking out my book, Make Way For You, Tips for Getting Out of Your Own Way. It's a quick, short read if you're looking for some inspiration and motivation, and you can find out more about it at spuntoday.com/books. There you'll find a video of me telling you all how the book came to fruition, as well as a couple of audio excerpts. If you're interested, you can purchase it wherever books are sold: Kindle, iBooks, Kobo, in ebook or paperback format, which you can find on Amazon. Also, for being a Spun Today listener, I can also send you a free copy. Right there on that same landing page at spuntoday.com/books, drop in your email address at the bottom of the page, and I'll shoot you over a copy in the format of your choice. And that's all I got, folks. Thanks again for checking out this episode. And as always, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening.